Watch out, this episode contains spoilers for Transformers 1. Rewritten and expanded following her appearance in the new movie Transformers 1, this episode takes a fresh look at the bot closest to Optimus Prime's heart. These are the updated basics on ELITA 1. ELITA 1 was an original character created by writer Beth Bornstein for the Transformers animated series in 1985, who was the female counterpart and romantic interest of Optimus Prime. A skilled warrior and charismatic leader who transformed into a Cybertronian car, she had the special power to freeze time, a dangerous ability of last resort that drained her life force when used. ELITA herself appeared only in the episode The Search for Alpha Trion, but a younger version of the character featured in the later episode War Dawn, which revealed her origins. Before the war, ELITA had been named Ariel and had worked in an energy warehouse with her boyfriend, Orion Pax. She and Orion were gunned down by Megatron during a Decepticon raid on the facility, but their lives were saved by the old sage, Alpha Trion, who rebuilt them into the first of a new generation of battle-ready Autobots who could fight back against the Decepticons. Orion became Optimus Prime, and his schematics were used as a base for Trion to reconstruct Ariel into ELITA 1. After millions of years of war, Optimus believed that ELITA died in a Decepticon attack just before he and his Autobots left Cybertron for Earth. But in reality, she survived and went underground, forming a guerrilla cell of female Autobots to continue fighting the Decepticons in Optimus's absence. In the present day, a botched raid on the Decepticons' energy storehouse resulted in ELITA's capture, and Optimus, learning his long-lost love was still alive, surrendered to the Decepticons in return for her release. ELITA used her time-freezing power to rescue Optimus, leaving herself on the brink of death. But Optimus took her to Alpha Trion, who guided the Autobot leader in performing a transfusion of his own energy that saved ELITA's life. Though the two were happy to be reunited, they knew that they had to part again, with Optimus returning to Earth, while ELITA remained to continue the fight on Cybertron. As a character created for the cartoon, no toys of ELITA were available in the original 1980s toy line, and she spent the next 2 decades in near-total obscurity, with her only representation in all that time being a small Japanese-exclusive model kit released in 1996. There were plans for her to feature in Dreamwave Productions comic books in the mid-2000s, in a story that would have depicted her as an agent of the evil aliens, the Quintessons. But just as she appeared in the comic at the end of 2004, Dreamwave went out of business, and the series was cancelled. It was the official Transformers convention, BotCon, that truly brought ELITA back, when she featured in the exclusive comic available at the show in 2007. This story was set within the world of the original Marvel Transformers comic series, and introduced ELITA into that world, depicting her as a martial artist of mysterious origin, with light-bending armour. ELITA's design in the comic was based on the Decepticon speedboat Thunderblast from 2005's Transformers Cybertron, and a few years later, that figure was recolored to create an ELITA toy available at BotCon 2009. But that's jumping ahead a little. The first ELITA toy was released in 2007 as part of the toy line for the first live-action movie. This incarnation of ELITA was a recolor of the Autobot motorcycle RC from 2004's Transformers Energon, and was characterized as the movie universe's first female Transformer, a cunning sharpshooter who could generate an energy field that caused her opponents to overheat. She didn't appear in the film itself, but did show up in tie-in comic books, which modified her appearance to make her look more like the original cartoon character. ELITA then made the jump to the big screen in the 2009 sequel, Revenge of the Fallen. Sort of. You see, this movie introduced 3 new female Autobot motorcycles, but it didn't really give any information about them as characters. Some sources said they were all components of RC, whose single mind controlled all 3 bodies. But others, including the movie toy line, identified them as 3 separate characters: the sisters, RC, Chromia, and ELITA 1. Comics would clear up the confusion and explain ELITA's change in appearance, establishing that the 3 sisters had once been separate bots, but had been captured and experimented on by the Decepticon mad scientist Flatline, who had fused them into a hive mind, individual bodies sharing each other's thoughts and feelings. Drawing on the original cartoon, the comics depicted ELITA as having once been close to Optimus Prime, but the pair had grown apart after the traumas of the war had hardened them both into more vengeful, violent bots, eventually leading to ELITA's death at the hands of Shockwave. In between the movies, in 2008, ELITA returned to TV screens in Transformers Animated, which put a new spin on the classic idea of her as the girl Optimus had left behind. In this series, ELITA was a cadet in the Autobot Military Academy, who had the special ability to copy the powers of other Transformers. When an off-the-books mission with her fellow cadets Optimus and Sentinel to a planet of giant spiders went wrong, ELITA attempted to use her power on the creatures, only to wind up mutating herself into a monstrous techno-organic form. Mistakenly believed dead by her friends, the abandoned and resentful ELITA renamed herself Black Arachnia and joined up with the Decepticons. Her efforts to cure her mutation would lead to her crossing paths with Optimus years later on Earth, their tragic history and feelings for one another complicating the Autobot leader's attempts to stop her harmful schemes. After a few quiet years, ELITA 1 joined the world of IDW Publishing's comic books in 2015, which offered another significant reinvention of the character. In IDW's universe, ELITA had no connection to Optimus Prime. Instead, she was the cold and militant leader of a nomadic band of Cybertronians who travelled the galaxy aboard the giant spaceship transformer Carcer, serving as the jailers of the evil Prime, Liege Maximo, held prisoner within Carcer's body. After the end of the war, Cybertron re-established contact with the wandering Carcer, but ELITA's uncompromising, unsympathetic insistence on putting her duty above the planet's more immediate needs often led to conflict, both political and physical, with Cybertron's representatives, Starscream and Windblade. But in the end, ELITA would give her life in defense of Cybertron. When it was attacked by the planet-eating monster Unicron, she went out in a blaze of glory, piloting Carcer on a crash course straight into Unicron's face. After a decade of intermittent appearances that had seen the character reimagined in some very different ways, things began to change for ELITA 1 towards the end of the 2010s. Over the course of just a few short years, she underwent a dramatic increase in prominence that restored some consistency to both her design and characterization, and saw her rapidly go from only an occasional supporting character to the face of female representation in the franchise, overtaking characters like RC and Windblade to become the go-to female Autobot, prominently appearing in most major new Transformers series of the 2020s thus far, as well as being featured in numerous pieces of ancillary media and merchandise, and getting more new toys than in the entire rest of her history put together. ELITA 1's first notable role in this new era came when IDW rebooted their comic books in 2019. In this new universe, ELITA was initially depicted as a member of the Decepticons, back when they were just a political party advocating for social reform on pre-war Cybertron, until she was convinced by Bumblebee to help him investigate the party from the inside and uncover its true evil ambitions. This was followed by a starring role for ELITA in 2020's War for Cybertron animated series. Set during the war on the Transformers' homeworld, this series showcased how the long conflict had strained ELITA and Optimus's relationship, to the point that ELITA had even begun doubting Prime's command decisions. As in the original series, ELITA remained behind on Cybertron when Optimus and his troops left the planet, where her continued fight against the Decepticons would ultimately lead to her death. But her spirit would later appear to aid Optimus in the series' final battle, and to assure the guilt-ridden Prime that she didn't blame him for leaving her, and would always love him. 2022's Transformers Earthspark featured ELITA in a supporting role as Optimus Prime's second-in-command. In this series, she was a tough, athletic, highly skilled bot, always up for a fight, who had come to Earth with Optimus, and was now his close ally in navigating the difficulties of building a peaceful life for the Transformers on the planet after the end of the war. In 2024, Skybound's Transformers comic book showcased a more ruthless ELITA 1, embittered by centuries of war, who resented Optimus for leaving her on Cybertron. When the pair met in the present day, it wasn't a happy reunion, as ELITA proved unconcerned about the safety of Earth and tried to force Optimus to return to Cybertron with her. Other notable toys of ELITA released during this time included a combiner version of the character in 2018's Power of the Primes, and figures of both ELITA and her younger self Ariel in the Legacy toy line between 2022 and 23. And most recently, ELITA's enjoyed a leading role in the 2024 movie Transformers 1, in which she was voiced by Hollywood star Scarlett Johansson. In this version of her story, ELITA started out as one of Cybertron's lower class of underprivileged worker robots who lacked the power to transform. A no-nonsense bot who always had an eye on her next promotion, ELITA was captain of a mining squad that she ran like a drill sergeant, until a breach of protocol by miner Orion Pax led to her being demoted to waste management. Hoping to regain her lost standing, ELITA begrudgingly agreed to join Orion on a search for the legendary, long-lost Matrix of Leadership, believing it would bring them favour in the eyes of Cybertron's ruler, Sentinel Prime. But their quest uncovered a dark secret instead, when they learned from the ancient warrior Alpha Trion that Sentinel was a false Prime who had usurped rule of the planet, and had created the working class by forcibly extracting their transformation cogs. Outfitted with new cogs by Trion, the friends set out to tear down Sentinel's regime, with ELITA using her combination of smarts and strength to help Orion rally an army of followers, and to defeat Sentinel's lieutenant, Arachnid, to acquire proof of the villain's crimes from her memory banks. And after the last few years of big changes, that's where ELITA 1's story has brought her. From a one-shot cartoon character 40 years ago to silver screen stardom as one of the biggest bots in Transformers media today. And those are the updated basics on ELITA 1. Share your thoughts on her rise to fame in the comments. There's lots more history and lore from the world of the Transformers waiting for you on my channel, so subscribe and check it out. Plus get early ad-free access to new videos on Patreon.